I keep asking myself, just how much worse can things get? And then it seems that every week something new happens that makes me realize, oh, actually, it can get way worse. You know, we thought it was bad now. And when we go through this, you can be like, wow, that's really bad. And yes, but remember, next week is another week and it'll get worse. Before we begin, though, if you want to support us and understand the end direction to which we are heading, go to lotus.com and go and sign up and check out my deep think on Rousseau's Savage. I've recorded, well, no, Jonathan Crowe recorded an audio track for this, but that's fine because he's got a better voice than I do. But this is the world in which we live, and the philosophical underpinnings of it is to essentially, and this just as a quick spoiler, to make everyone dependent on the state and free from any kind of physical constraints of their own. So their wills can be perfectly free in order to do anything. And that's the driving goal that underpins everything that is happening now. Anyway, so let's begin. In the UK, you're actually not allowed to discriminate against people on the basis of their race or sex, or actually even personal beliefs. So you can't refuse to hire a Nazi, even if he turns up with a swastika, like, I don't like Nazis. But he did really well on the aptitude test. He could sue you if he was the one who came top of that aptitude test for not hiring him, even though he's got a giant swastika on his face. That's how
Charles Manson style, just carve it in there.
Yeah, weirdly, you can't discriminate on beliefs either. So there's just no discrimination at all in the UK.
And just to clarify my position, I think this is ridiculously stupid because I think as an employer, you should be able to say, Nazi Nick, maybe not.
Sorry, Nick. Sorry. I actually don't want to hire you. But he could sue you, potentially. And so race and sex, though, are probably the most common ways to approach this. Because, to be fair, it's not nice or fair to say, well, I would hire you, but you're black, or I would hire you, but you're a woman, and therefore I'm not going to hire you because I just don't feel like it. I can understand why we would have discrimination protections against that, right? So that's fine, reasonable, okay. And so let's come to the institutional corruption of, what institution this week? I mean, it's every other institution, so we may as well get to, the Royal Air Force. Those heroes who saved us in the Battle of Britain from the Nazis. Well, now they're not hiring white men anymore.
Well, they're just putting a temporary pause on it.
That's just a temporary pause.
Just a temporary pause. Everything recently, over the past few years, has always been temporary, hasn't it?
I guess that means that I can just put a temporary pause on hiring black women. It'd be just, what's the moral difference?
Well, I mean, we could just put a temporary pause on hiring women. Altogether.
But again, we would be in trouble if we did that. The government would probably come and knock on our door and say, excuse me, we have rules about that. But for some reason, when the RAF decide, we've got diversity targets and we're not going to hire any white men to hit those diversity targets, everyone's like, well, I guess the law doesn't apply.
Well, that's the thing. We know that in practice, what those laws have turned out to be is a way to force companies to hire people that they wouldn't otherwise and force them to get into these diversity quotas, etc., when really it never goes both ways. The bias in it is implicit, but it's very, very clear.
Demonstrable. I mean, so they tell us that the group captain who is responsible for recruiting has just resigned over this because, it seems to be racist and sexist. And I guess he's like, maybe I don't want to be involved in racist policies. I mean, we're just putting a pause on recruiting Jews. Sorry. You'd be like, that's a bit of a Nazi policy, isn't it? Like, weird. Okay, fine. But anyway, so Sky News reported that a senior female officer had imposed a temporary freeze on the recruitment. But the move has caused widespread backlash from officers who claims that the move puts the UK's security at risk by prioritising diversity over recruiting the right candidate for the job. Yeah, it obviously does. It obviously does. I mean, it's not like our armed forces are overwhelmed with applicants at the moment. We struggle to meet recruitment targets anyway. And of course, most of those people are probably going to be white men who are like, I'll protect my country. I'll do my part.
Well, yeah, this is a point that I brought up the other day, and I think it got a little bit of pushback from some, but I do stand by it, which is that if you're prioritizing diversity, you're inherently, unless you're just going purely for, white women, you're going to be recruiting from a pool of people who don't have a history in the UK, in all likelihood. So when push comes to shove, how likely, if say somebody attacked us, are they going to be willing to put down their lives as opposed to just going, bye guys, I'm going home?
Which is what happened in Ukraine. An RAF spokesman, however, came out and told us, no, this is all a pack of lies and that guy who resigned is just a liar, by the way. But also it's happening and it's a good thing but we'll get to that in a second. They say there is no pause in Royal Air Force recruitment and no new policy with regards to meeting in-year recruitment requirements. Royal Air Force commanders will not shy away from the challenges we face building a service that attracts and recruits talent from every part of the UK workforce. As with the Royal Navy and British Army, we are doing everything we can to encourage recruiting from underrepresented groups and ensure we have a diverse workforce. Right, so it's just woke BS.
Well, yeah, this is
a woke lie, in fact.
We're not doing it, but we are doing it, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, and literally, it's a good thing. If you go to the next one, the woman in charge, an Air Vice Marshal Maria Byford, is like, yeah, it's not happening, but it is a good thing, and we're going to continue doing it. We're not ashamed of this, actually. It's like brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Just incredible. Right, so she said that discussions would be carried out next month with the RAF board, which would look at ways to use positive action legally, quote unquote, so recruits could be selected on their merit, their gender, or their ethnicity. So normally it's on merit, but then, what about their gender and ethnicity, though?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. The gender and ethnicity cancels out the merit part, and we know that, whether they're saying it or not.
It's just been the case. Like, if you don't do merit recruiting, you will get people of subpar performance. That's just the way it is. Because at present, candidates are put forward to training as soon as they meet the requirements in a first-past-the-post system, rather than based on how well they did at certain stages. So she's like, if I can include more women and people from different backgrounds in that, I think I have a better service in the long run. Yeah, but not a more meritorious service. And it's not that these people are necessarily worse either. It's just the impetus to become as good as you can become is reduced because you've lowered the standards. If they had to meet the same targets that the white men had to meet, then they would have to become as good as the white men. And so it would be an upward momentum to the improvement of the skills of women in other communities. Which is why white men are good at anything. Something. No, it is. No one gives a white man a break in anything.
No, I agree with you entirely. The other thing that's interesting in this, if you're not going by merit, purely on the basis of you're flying something that's very dangerous to be flying.
Exactly.
It's something purely for the basis of safety for the people flying in the first place.
If it was picking strawberries, then maybe I'd be like, well, it's not so important, you know?
Yeah, it's like, how hard can it be, picking strawberries? But flying flying these military...
Fighter jets.
Yeah, fighter jets. I forgot the term for it for a second there. Flying fighter jets. I want to know that I've been chosen because I have the potential to be able to do this properly.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I don't want to be flying into a mountain by accident.
And add to that, you may have to go to war. Like, this is a branch of the military. Like, you're going to be actively trying to kill people who are trying to kill you.
And failing to defend my country in this situation involves me getting blown up.
But she's like, well, look, anyone who thinks that this is going to reduce the fighting effectiveness of the armed forces is just a bigot, really. I would never do anything that impacted on that. Our role is to protect and defend the nation. But the RAF does have an ambition to make women 40% of new recruits by 2030, and ethnic minorities 20%. Oh, good luck. Best of luck. I'm sure it's going to work. I'm sure it's not going to reduce the fighting effectiveness of the RAF at all. Anyway, let's go to the NHS, which of course have been long captured by wokeism, because they've decided, we're going to put out jobs. They just say, yeah, you know what? Just if you're a woman, apply for this. I'd like the definition of a woman, to be honest, but no men allowed, actually, because they have diversity targets too. They had this role. It's £100,000 a year. Bart's Health NHS Trust in London. The job ad was posted on LinkedIn, and they say, we are particularly interested in receiving applicants from candidates who identify as female. And of course, various men's rights groups are like, well, that's a bit discriminatory, isn't it? That's illegal. And they're like, yeah, don't care. Not a problem. Anyway, it's probably an issue because lots of people from the NHS are apparently quitting and going to OnlyFans, which... Okay.
It's such an easy out for so many women. But at the same time, a lot of women who go on OnlyFans, they're not going to be the ones making 50 grand a month.
No, they're not.
They're going to have a few pervy friends from where they used to work, giving them a tenner a month. And they'll get like 50 quid extra a month and they'll go, oh, joy.
Yep. Adult worker support charity Beyond the Street said it is deeply concerned by the rise in care workers turning to the website. And it's like, well, what... I'm not going to go into that anymore. So anyway, it gets worse, of course. Gays Against Groomers got temporarily suspended from Twitter because Twitter was like, hey, you can't call people who are trying to groom children in sexual acts groomers. And Gays Against Groomers are like, what? Why? And they were like, well, it's homophobic. And they're like, What are you saying?
I was hoping that we'd come to that.
No, it's not actually homophobic for a bunch of gay people to say maybe we shouldn't let people groom children.
Anti-nonce gays confirmed homophobic.
Yes. Why do you hate yourselves is what they're saying, which is remarkable because that implies that all gays are pro-grooming.
Well, yeah, it's implying that it's an intrinsic part of the lifestyle.
Which has always been the accusation from the far-right religious types against the gay community. And Twitter's like, well, actually, they may have had a point, but it's a good thing. And it's like, and so, like...
Literally every like, I don't know,
ridiculous.
Christian conservative conspiracy from the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
And Twitter's like, yes.
Yes, and it's a good thing.
Exactly. It's unbelievable, right? So, and this account grew really quickly. Because, of course, people were like, well, I'm gay and I don't approve of you grooming children. What are you doing? And so they got a lot of traction very quickly. They got targeted, obviously, and they got suspended. But they did get their account back under a new name, if you can go to the next one. Gays Against Broomers.
I had not seen this. That's amazing. I know who I'll give him a quick follow now.
Yeah. But anyway, moving on to a completely unrelated subject, it turns out that monkeypox was actually primarily spread through sex and not skin-to-skin contact. According to the World Health Organization, who have come out as a homophobic organization this week, the virus is spread through close contact with people, animals, or material infected with the virus. It enters the body through broken skin, the respiratory tract, the eyes, nose, and mouth. And what's being left unsaid there is it's mucous membranes, basically. This is the primary reason that people get it. In again, totally unrelated news, the 9th child in the United States has been confirmed to have monkeypox. They're not telling us how they got monkeypox.
I was going to wonder what the background of this diagnosis was, but I'm sure it's being kept perfectly private.
Health officials are not disclosing the child's sex, age, county of residence, or how the child is connected to the previously diagnosed case. So it's a good thing that there's no grooming going on there at all. And we don't need to know anything more about it. But we do have some details on the dog with monkeypox.
I thought it was mainly women who did this sort of thing.
Yeah, you thought. Well, again, no. I mean,
I was about to say I hoped, but no. I wish no one did any of this sort of thing with dogs. Leave dogs alone.
You would think, but
I've heard of dog groomers before, but seriously,
we have got no video evidence of that. We are making merely an inference, which I think is unfair. So we will not make that inference. We will just read this report and realize that there's no connection between anything involved. A dog in France contracted monkeypox from its owners. A 4-year-old Italian greyhound tested positive for the virus after developing lesions which included abdomen pustules and a thin anal ulceration. According to the Lancet.
I'm sure just a complete coincidence that's where it manifested.
Total coincidence. The dog is owned by 2 men who live together and have sex with men, including sexual partners outside of their relationship. Could you have imagined that? The men had visited a hospital in Paris. They'd both developed anal ulcerations 6 days after sex with other partners.
Ah, yes.
And the dog just got random anal ulcerations.
And my experiences living in Manchester told me that the gay community are often monogamous.
The owners told health officials that their dog sleeps in the same bed as them. But why are the ulcers on its anus?
Well, on its own, dog owners letting a dog sleep on the bed with them, pretty innocent,
Yep.
Pretty innocent under normal circumstances.
There's just, when every single person on that bed has anal ulcers, including the dog, I'm just slightly more skeptical. That's all I have to say. I just have got a level of disbelief I can't resist, Sorry, okay, whatever. But I mean, it could be worse because we could be in Germany. And in fact, these chaps could just nip across the border to Germany and go to the Zoophilia Pride March. I played the clip, it's all in German, but it's unironically equal rights for zoophiles.
Zoophiles Rights Day.
Yes.
So they're claiming a full day.
Make love, not meat.
Make love to what?
Dogs. I mean, literally dogs. Like, you can see them. If you scroll down a bit, you can... Oh, no. There's one part of the clip where you can see them standing around with their dogs. And it's like, right,
I mean, the opening of the clip showed someone holding onto a German Shepherd. So.
Yes, the German Shepherd is definitely one of those dogs. And so it's like, right, okay, so this is just the modern world now. This is just what happens. This is just the institutions are totally captured by wokeness, and they're completely unrepentant about it in the face of the law. People are
that poor dog.
utterly, just utterly degenerate and disgusting in every way. And now we have zoo pride marches, which are probably protected by the same equality and diversity laws that are being flouted when white men are not allowed to apply. Oh, look at the expression of that.
It says it all.
But they're being flouted when white men are not allowed to apply for certain jobs. It's okay. How much worse can it actually get? Like, literally, I guess the only way down is just an open nonce pride march, right, through the streets of a city. That's got to be the only thing that's worse than all of this.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast of Lotus Eaters, you can go over to lotuseaters.com to see all the premium content we have on our website, such as Harry's video on how the left remains an Ouroboros of wokeness and still manages to win. If you'd like to see the rest of the content that Harry's putting out, you can follow him on Getter at Harry Lotus Eater. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.